Wonderful. Good afternoon, and thank you all so much for being here. As you can see, we're going to talk about the great grid upgrade. And I have a great panel here with me that's going to look at this and really inform you and educate you about what's been happening and what is about to happen. Let me very quickly introduce you to them. I have with me here His Excellency Saif Al Qubaisi. He is the Acting Director General of Regulatory Affairs at the Department of Energy, Abu Dhabi. Lovely to have you. Dr. Zhu Yiying is with us. She's the Director of National Key Laboratory Power Grid Safety from China Electric Power Research Institute. Andy Herscowitz joins us also. Andy is the CEO of Mission 300 Accelerator from the Rockefeller Foundation. Dr. Bruce Stedall, lovely to have you too, the COO of TAQA Transmission. From Siemens Energy, the Managing Director here in the UAE, Khalid bin Hadi. And Manuel joins us. He's the Head of Climate and Energy Commercialization with Google X, Alphabet's Moonshot Factory. What a great lineup I have here. So the grid that keeps us all well and happy and connected, so important, the grid. Dr. Saif, if I may ask you and start. You know, UAE has committed to net zero by 2050. That's a very ambitious transition, I think, for, well, it's all ambitious, I think, for everybody. But given the growth in the region, the industrial growth, the population growth, I mean, talk to me about how the grid is going to handle this and the opportunities that are there. How are we going to get it right?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ethan, for having me in this important panel. If we look at Abu Dhabi 20 years ago, it's totally different from the demand angle and from the population growth. By 2045, we expect the population to double and also the economy. Therefore, we need to be ready and to cater for this huge demand. Also, bearing in mind, we have a commitment toward 2035, we need our energy to be 60% from clean sources, and by 2050, we need to decarbonize the whole mix to become net zero. In order to achieve that, we as the Department of Energy have in place some regulatory tools. One of them is the planning angle. So we expect the sector companies like Emirates Water and Electricity Company to submit the Statement of Future Capacity for 7 years. In this Statement of Future Capacity, they will give the demand forecast and the capacity required. At the same time, we have our colleagues also here in the panel. Bruce, he is from the Transmission Company. They are also submitting to us the planning statement, 5 years for the network, and how to expand the network and what are the things needed to cater for the capacity coming. In addition to that, we implementing and facilitating the smart grid implementation, in which we need to integrate different types of technologies like solar, wind, nuclear, while maintaining the power stable and ensure it's flexible to cater for this clean energy sources. And hopefully, these are done through the sector, through one of the pioneer companies like Siemens Energy. They are supporting the sector with this new technology and the new to cater for the smart grid. With regard to the digital systems also, the Department of Energy is facilitating the transfer and the transformation for the companies to be digital in all aspects, starting from the planning, construction, asset management, until the interface with the customers. So we are promoting in how to become digital, smart, ensuring the customer understand the consumption, the behavior, and we try to utilize these data in order to inform how we can be conservative, and this will fit into energy efficiency programs. Therefore, these initiatives make Abu Dhabi grow, sustainable, and maintaining the whole aspects.
And it's almost about being ahead of the curve, so to speak, knowing what's coming. Dr. Yiying, in China, there has been an upgrade of the grid, but how do you make sure, again, with the rapid development of such new energy in China, that you can actually deliver, stable operation and safe operation as well?
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. By 2024, the installed capacity of new energy in China has reached 1.9 billion kilowatts. And it is predicted in 2030, maybe it will reach 2.4 billion kilowatts. So I think the following measures is very important to realize the sustainable development and safe and stability operation. The first is scientific planning. The relationship between the new energy and traditional energy, overall and local government and market, and new energy development and conservation need to be handled well. Secondly, about the regulation ability. I think it's very important to improve the system regulation ability. The flexibility of traditional energy generation need to be improved, and the energy storage, the application of large-scale energy storage need to be promoted, and the global forming technology need to be used effectively to improve the system and interference abilities. All parties need to participate in the system regulation. And the third is about UHV technology. And we still need to develop UHV transmission to realize the resource allocation, carrying, and consumption capacity of the large system. You know, China now has around 20 HVDC links, and in 2030, we will have around 40 HVDC links.
I mean, really, I think, yeah, leading the way in many ways too, and
Yeah.
just moving non-stop ahead.
Okay.
Andy, now you work a lot, and a lot of your background work and development work in Africa, but also when we look at the energy sector, you know, many countries in the world are having a challenge dealing with their grid, but Africa is such a huge continent. I mean, there's probably particular problems there. Do we need to pay maybe special attention to what's happening there?
Not only do you have to pay special attention, let's start with the fact that there are, of the 700 million people in the world who don't have access to electricity, 600 million of them are in Africa. We're talking about people who don't even have a light bulb. They're using kerosene, and they're nowhere near the grid. And even with proper planning, it's likely that it could be another 30 years before the grid would even arrive to many of those households. So the World Bank and the African Development Bank, to their credit, launched Mission 300 with the goal of getting 300 million Africans access to electricity by 2030. And keep in mind, of those 600 million people who don't have access to electricity, 78% of them can't even afford it. So what we need, while there's really well-intentioned big announcements of financing for climate and all these things happening in the rest of the world, you've got 50 countries in sub-Saharan Africa who combine their GDP as the equivalent of Turkey is. So we, as development partners and others, we need to really leverage private sector finance by taking on some of that risk and making it so that private sector can invest, because we need that private sector investment, but we need to be able to de-risk it for them. And there's a tremendous opportunity to do that, and that's what the World Bank is doing with African Development Bank, the support of Rockefeller Foundation, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, and Sustainable Energy for All.
Yeah, and we have to remember just how big that is, so we can't ignore it. Bruce, now, many of you might have heard today there was a great announcement here at this event, an MOU signed with Italy, Albania, and the UAE for an energy subsea cable that's going to have a big connectivity story, and it'll be run by the grid from Terna in Italy. I mean, TAQA is going to be in there somehow, so this is an example, I think, of the great work that's happening cross-country and cross-continent. But, you know, good for you on that. I know you haven't delivered it yet, and everybody will be working on it, but well done. And it's great to see and hear these things happening. But the existing grid around the world, as we know, I mean, was not designed to actually hold the energy that's sort of coming through today. Talk to me about that upgrade and where the big challenges are, because it has to be upgraded fast.
Yes, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, the grid has historically been developed based on having sort of large central sort of production facilities being transmitted and then distributed. And I mean, it's clear with the energy transition that is changing, and we need to change with that. I mean, within the UAE, we really embarked on this most probably in 2010, where we did a lot of work actually introducing the first nuclear plant into Abu Dhabi at Baraka, which is now fully operational as of last year. And that journey continues with some large-scale deployments of PV, with us now having about 2.5 gigawatts of PV in commercial operation. And I mean, some of you will have been here yesterday where another announcement was made about another very big PV plus BESS project to provide baseload energy, essentially being driven by demands that we didn't really think about 5 years ago in terms of AI data centers. So aside from us migrating from conventional forms of generation to clean and renewable forms of generation, there's also on the demand side different things happening, and again that's having to decarbonize. So there's more or less a surge, you could more or less call it, in demand. And irrespective of these changes that are happening, customers still expect secure and reliable supplies, as mentioned by Saif there, and we need to ensure we can deliver those expectations.
I mean, it is secure, reliable, affordable. I mean, we have to bring it all together. Khalid, we often hear the phrase, there will be no energy transition, no transition without transmission. So if we don't get the transmission right, and you can almost visualize how that happens, we're all going to be in trouble. I mean, every industry, every entertainment, everything, it all comes to a halt if we don't get this right. Talk to me about why this is so important that we actually get it right, and now we have this opportunity for the big grid upgrade.
I think when energy transition started to be one of the focus and discussions, we completely ignored the transmission part of it. And until now, we discovered that we can talk about any growth that we want from our renewables, from increased capacities and the demand that we're seeing. But if we don't have the right transmission infrastructure, we will not be able to cater for the future growth. The energy business in general is a future business. Whatever you build for today, it will cater for 30 to 50 years. So, and I think as of today, it's very important where I see now most of the regulators, companies like ourselves, Siemens Energies, and TAQA, and others are becoming focused on transmissions because transmission is the backbone of the energy infrastructure. And without having this correct, it will not be able to progress for the future that we are looking for. I was reading a report, and according to IEA, said 3,000 gigawatt of renewables, okay, being stuck, not being able to deliver the project because the transmission is not yet ready. So you can imagine, and of course there are many examples, but you can imagine with a simple example of that, that will also hold us back to meet the renewable and the net zero target. And I think what's really important as of today, the business model have changed significantly. Is not longer about I sit and I wait for a tender. It's about joint effort where regulators, government, private, and also banks come together to discuss the future and the design of the energy infrastructures. And we as a company, Siemens Energy, we invest €1 billion annually on innovations. Innovation that will support to upgrade the existing infrastructure, such as digitalizations, stabilizing the grids, new technologies. It's not about only just supplying equipment, it's about how can I have a reliable, stable, efficient, and affordable grid that can meet the requirements of the communities. It's not about government, it's about the communities and supply it. As you said, like in Africa, there are 700 people don't have access to electricities. But imagine there are more than 1 billion or over don't have access to a reliable electricity.
10 years ago, Google X would not have been on this panel. So we're so excited to actually have you here. And again, when we look at it, and particularly the moonshot factory, a lot has to be done. We can't do this in small stages. Talk to us, Greg, in terms of the size, the scale, and I suppose the urgency of getting this done.
Absolutely. So when we looked at this problem, like we do every moonshot, it has to meet a certain threshold, meaning unless we can affect the lives of 1 billion people or more, it's not a moonshot for us. So when we investigate opportunities where we can bring our talents, our skills of our engineers and our scientists to bring to bear to make the world better, what do we want to focus on? And the energy transition was one of the key areas of focus that we identified a number of years ago. And one of the platform technologies that we have been advancing for the better part of 7 years now is a platform technology called Tapestry. And what we have done is be able to really look at this question of how to upgrade and up-level the energy grid, how to make it more reliable, how to make it more resilient, how to make it more flexible. How do we generate the kind of plasticity of an energy grid which started getting built over 130 years ago? It is humankind's largest machine in aggregate. And how do we, without rebuilding it, how do we get it to actually work in the context of what is needed today? More EV vehicles, energy storage, intermittent sources of energy, obviously to complement baseload power. How do we actually deliver every marginal megawatt at the lowest cost and at the lowest CO2 footprint? And so that was what we looked to do with Tapestry. And we're really excited that we have made massive advances. We're working in 6 different countries right now at various stages. And Chile, for example, as of this year, is using Tapestry to plan their grid, which we're able to work with them on to give them the kind of granularity where they can see 20 years in the future, hour by hour. That creates enormous flexibility, enormous sort of better capital expenditure decisions, lower OpEx, et cetera. So that for us is the big opportunity, the moonshot, if you will, to really up-level the energy grid into where it needs to go.
And do you want to come in on what Khalid was talking about, and also perhaps if you'll, with that, to maybe just talk a little bit about finance as well.
So I want to emphasize what your point about that transmission gets ignored. Transmission is the trifecta in that, number one, it's going to accelerate decarbonization, because when you can trade power across borders, you take Africa, for example, a lot of people say you need to have fossil fuels in Africa. Right now you do, but if you're able to import inexpensive geothermal power and hydropower from other countries that don't have other sources of base load energy, then you solve that issue. Number two, it drives access because it brings down costs as well. So I mentioned how many people can't afford electricity. You bring down the cost, more people can afford it as well. And then the other piece is energy security. You know, when people are interdependent on one another, it tends to create greater energy security in the African context. Part of what we're doing, again, is trying to be more creative by turning these institutions like the World Bank, African Development Bank, into leveraging institutions, not lending institutions. So what do I mean by that? It means that we care much less about the return that we're earning, but we're realizing that we can make better use of money that traditionally was used as grant capital to buy down the cost of transactions, de-risk, so that private capital will come in. That's what we need to change. We need to change the global financial architecture. There's not more money out there, but we just need to shift how the money is spent, and we will see multiples of investment moving forward.
Dr. Yiying, talk to us a little bit about where you see international cooperation moving very fast, given technology developments and all of that, but the need for this to be a global solution.
Yes, I just talk about the power system simulation technology. It's very important for the planning, construction, and operation, just as you know. But with the development of the massive new energy and UHVDC links, massive power electronic equipment has penetrated to the all aspects of the power system. So for the traditional simulation technology, it has being enabled to describe accurately the characteristic of stability, so which cannot meet the development of power industry. So it's necessary to innovate simulation technology and to improve the accuracy and efficiency, because more accurate the simulator, the better the control and the safer the operation. So SGCC has taken the lead in the research of the electromagnetic transient technology, simulation technology for large-scale power system research. So after 10 years efforts, a new simulation platform has been constructed in our lab with more accuracy and efficiency. And we have also used this technology to support the development of the new energy in China.
And we have to be a bit efficient on this panel, Bruce. Very quickly here, tell me the technology that can actually help in terms of, the international cooperation as well.
Well, I mean, in terms of technologies, particularly for international cooperation, it's clear that, those like HVDC play an important role, and indeed, perhaps picking up what Andy mentioned, perhaps in a slightly different way, we are working on projects like interconnecting countries like Morocco to the UK through these technologies to ensure that we can get access to, let's say, resources that are available in one jurisdiction that can be made use of elsewhere. And that's a bit like the one that your opening comment about Albania, Italy as well.
Khalid, quickly we look at Siemens Energy, an international corporation, an international company, again, really moving at the forefront of technology. Is this going to be the savior of the grid?
Definitely. We will not be able to do it on our own. We will require the partners. We need the regulators to work with very closely to unlock the obstacles that we are seeing and to move the progress quicker. We will need finance, because finance will play an important role to advance the technology, to advance the project, and also to increase the renewables. And then we will need reliable partners that can execute and deliver. This is very important. And I think today what we are seeing is not about myself, it's about the countries that I'm seeing and I'm witnessing next to me. You will see moving forward the interconnecting between countries coming up very soon. And the HVDC business will play an important role. And that's why the three triangles that I have explained, the regulators, the investments, and the technology partners need to come together to design the system of the future.
Dr. Saif, I know we have to wrap this up very quickly, but give us, regulators sometimes can be a hindrance, but they can also be a great help and they can be a great enabler. Talk to me about where you see, the role of the regulator to make sure that we move forward.
Thank you. I would like just to comment on the collaboration. Collaboration is very important and key success of Abu Dhabi system. Without collaboration, you will not learn from the global best practices and try to implement it here or the other way around. Sometimes Abu Dhabi has the best practices, which could be a benchmark for other countries. We had successful stories for the GCC interconnection, where we linked with the GCCIA country from our Al-Dhafra region or western region of Abu Dhabi to Saudi Arabia. And now we are extending that link to upgrade the link to interconnect and transmit extra power. Coming back to the role of the regulator. Regulator should be agile, flexible, and promote innovation and ensure it's seen as a partner. And this has been changed over the years, definitely. So Abu Dhabi system and the regulator in Abu Dhabi is more flexible partner, facilitator, rather than a hindrance. And with having the regulator in place, the investor will have the confidence that I can come and invest in Abu Dhabi because there is a regulator that can protect my rights. There is a regulator can ensure there is a codes in place. There is a regulator ensure there is roles and responsibility defined. There is no interference. There is nothing will be done in the system. So there is a system. So I consider the regulator in Abu Dhabi very mature and very supportive to any energy transition.
No, I definitely wasn't suggesting that the regulator in Abu Dhabi was a hindrance, but around the world we hear it occasionally. We have to wrap this up. I'm going to leave it to you to give us a moonshot. Where to go, Greg? What do we need to do urgently now to make sure we get there?
So we need to go fast. I think that's been a recurring theme across many, many conversations in this conference. We need to do more, and we need to do it smarter. And one of the things that I hope, coming out of this conversation and the many meetings we've had over the last couple of days and going into tomorrow and the rest of the week, is finding this opportunity to collaborate. And one of the areas that we're very focused on is data. Of course, that's what Google does quite well. And energy is about electrons. Energy is also about data. And with better data, there's better information, and we can make better decisions together. So let's work together. There's a lot ahead of us. We need to go faster. We need to do more. And excited to be working with many of you going in the future.
And thank you all. Sorry, we've had to go a bit fast on this. This has been our express grid upgrade. I want to thank all of you for being with us here. Greg, thank you so much. Khalid, Bruce, Andrew, Dr. Yiying, thank you so much. And His Excellency, Dr. Saif. Thank you all so much. And thanks for your great sharing all that knowledge with us. We could talk about this for a long time because this grid will go on, but we'll make sure it's top of the agenda next time. Thank you all so much.